Hi, everybody. Welcome to the most recent edition of our frantargeting.com Google Hangout. I'm Ed Fox. I'm joined by Harry Kerbo down there in the little corner next to me. And as always, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Fran Tarkenton. Hey, Fran.
Hello, guys. How we doing?
Good, good, good. But let's go ahead and get this thing started. Fran, something that you've always told me, you always tell everybody over here that works with us, is that we have to learn from other people. I know that you certainly have learned from other people in your experiences in your lifetime, and there's one person today that comes to mind that is the focus of this hangout. He's right here in Atlanta. He's the founder of Home Depot, and his name is Bernie Marcus. And can you tell us and tell me, how he became the business icon that he is today? Where he started?
And I'm going to relieve everybody out there from this standpoint. We all think, well, I've got to be creative, I've got to be bright, I've got to be smart to be able to build a business and have success. Well, you've got to be smart. And if you're smart, you learn from other people, and you realize that none of us have an original thought. Everything that I've ever learned is from what I hear, what I see, what I read. So I want to go out, and I've always talked to people, ask questions. You got to be curious. And I'm going to bring you a lot of great stories in our Google Hangouts. And the one today is one of the best stories of all time. Bernie Marcus was the co-founder and chairman of the board and CEO of Home Depot. He built Home Depot from nothing, just 20, 25 years ago, and made it into a multi-billion-dollar dynamic company. Bernie Marcus is a billionaire, a multi-billionaire. It was just from nothing, and his story is great. So he said, well, Bernie Marcus, he must be lucky. We always think the other guy's lucky. People come to me and say, well, you're lucky in business because you were a football player. You got to leverage your celebrity and being a football player and all that. Well, if that was the case, why aren't all the ex-football players successful in business and other things? They're not. Bernie Marcus, he didn't have any head start over anybody. He lived in tenement housing. His parents were coming over from Russia, as I remember, and had no money. Tenement housing in New Jersey, and he had to battle the gangs. Yeah, the black gang with their leader would, on his way home from school, get in fights with Bernie. And finally, after so many fights, he said, "Bernie, I'm tired of fighting with you. I want you to join my gang." And he was the #2 guy with the gang. And then later, when the Italians came and picked on Bernie, his gang members came and kept the Italians away. And so that's how he grew up, with nothing. No silver spoon, no dollars. So went to Rutgers and majored in pharmacy. And then he got a job with Handy Dan out on the West Coast. It's kind of like a Home Depot. He was the CEO of that company. And they fired him at age 48. And Bernie never looked back. Because all of us as entrepreneurs, we get going in life and someone hits us right in the mouth, right in the nose. And we say, oh my goodness, it's a wake-up call. And it can either take you down and you feel sorry for yourself and you stop trying and you quit, or when they bang and knock you in the face, as they did Bernie at age 48, you come back harder than ever before. It drives us. I never learned from winning. I learned from losing, and Bernie Marcus is no different. So he decides he wants to improve on Handy Dan and set up something that became Home Depot. But he needed money. He didn't have any money. The banks in Atlanta wouldn't loan him a dime. Ross Perot, who ran for president one time, big technology guy, billionaire out of Texas. He went to Ross Perot, gave him his plan, his background, give me $5 million and I'll give you half of the company. Ross Perot laughed at him. And so he had to start it just with his own guile. And Ed Fox, you tell this story even better than I, about how what he did. He leased an old broken down warehouse in Florida, got it for almost nothing, And Ed, tell him what he did, how he dummied up that store to make people really think that he had a lot of products on the shelves.
Yeah, I think this is actually fantastic. You know, they didn't have, even with the loans, even with the help, they didn't have the money to fill the stores, to provide the inventory, to have the inventory to look full. So they actually went out and bought thousands and thousands of empty used paint cans from all over, from various paint stores, and put them out on the floors. They also went out and bought boxes, boxes upon boxes upon boxes, marked them up, taped them up, and put them up on the tops of the shelves so that they would look full. You know, they were struggling. They were struggling to make payroll, he said, for a long time. And he said it took them over 5 years till they were able to finally fully stock everything and fully feel like they were on their way.
And think about this, and all of us have gone through this as entrepreneurs, you know, of his perseverance. Never give up. You know, he and his wife had to make a lot of sacrifices, and it was touch and go, and his wife really was worried about Bernie and the work he was doing and his health and his mental health and so forth. But one thing that stays constant as we work through life, whether you're an athlete, whether you're a business person, or whatever you might be doing, you don't give up. You keep fighting. You keep trying. You keep working, and you just keep going. And if you have that kind of drive and go and tenacity and damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead, you have a chance. Nobody has a chance if you quit. Nobody has a chance if you don't persevere. Nobody has a chance if you just, when you get knocked down, that you get back up. You always get back up. And you go back to getting loans. He needed some loans. And he went to this bank in Northern California, because he'd used this bank when he was at Handy Dan, and he wanted to get a line of credit for $5 million, that same $5 million. And finally the banker, you know, he said, Bernie, that's a hard go. Bernie said, I've always paid you back. I've always been a good customer of yours, and you can trust me. And the guy said, you know what, Bernie, I can't. He said, I'll get you the $5 million. He goes to his banking committee and his loan committee and his board, and they didn't want him to do it. And they said no. They turned him down. And he said, well, if you turn me down, he was the chairman of the bank, I quit. Because if you're not going to trust my instinct and trust what I'm doing with the people that I know, then I cannot be your CEO. They gave in, and they gave him the authorization to go to Bernie Marcus to give him his $5 million to get his business really going. And he did. But what he didn't tell Bernie, that as soon as he gave him the $5 million loan, which he did pay off, by the way, he also then told him that that the bank board wrote off the loan because they thought they'd never see the loan repaid. That's how it was. Does that sound familiar to all of you guys out there and women out there that are starting businesses? It's never smooth, and when you think you have all the answers, you don't. So you constantly got to continue to be reinventing yourself and thinking, how do I do better, and so forth. But all good executives, especially founders, I think, do this. You got to keep your hands in the soil. You got to continue talking to your customers. You're talking to your employees. He called his employees associates. He borrowed that from Sam Walton of Walmart, another great friend of mine, a great friend of Bernie Marcus. And Sam Walton called his employees, he called them his associates. And Bernie did the same thing. And Bernie said, you know, I never sat in the ivory tower office. I always stayed down in the stores. I wanted to talk to the people in the stores. I wanted them to tell me what was going on and how I could help them more. Same story that Sam Walton tells. But he also said, I used to like to go out in the parking lot. They didn't know I was the chairman of the board of Home Depot. And so the customers would be coming out with whatever they were buying, and I would talk to them and find out what they were doing, why they bought this and why they didn't buy that. And one day, this guy comes out with a pallet of lumber. And he comes out with a pallet of lumber, and then Bernie, again, he doesn't know who Bernie Marcus is. And so Bernie comes up to him and said, hey, I see you got a lot of lumber there. Where are your nails? Oh, I don't buy my nails here. What do you mean you don't buy your nails here? Yeah, I buy them down there. He said, why? He said, but nails don't work. He said, nails don't work. So he goes back in. Guy goes on. Bernie goes back into the store, goes to his hardware department, talks to his hardware guy, and he says, we sell any nails now? And the guy said, well, Bernie, we're not selling near as many nails as we used to. We changed suppliers, and our nails don't work anymore. He said, what do you mean our nails don't work? He said, our nails bend. And so they had to replace the supplier and get that done. I mean, but if he's not talking to the employees, the associates, he's not talking to the customers, he's not out with his hands in the soil, if he's in meetings all day long, talking to each other, doing business planning and HR planning and all the other stuff, he would have never known that. But every great entrepreneur who now, Bernie becomes an entrepreneur who's now running one of the biggest businesses in the world. It didn't change. You got to keep your hands in the soil. You've got to continue talking and asking questions of your customers, because the mission of business is to help people. The mission of business is to solve problems and have products and services that people really want. So how do you know what your customer wants if you don't talk to your customer, if you don't ask your customer questions? You can also talk to your customer through your associates in the stores or on the firing line, whether you have one employee or 5,000 employees, because they're talking to your customers every day. So you want to know what your customers are saying. What do they need? Because the world continues to change, doesn't it? And when you become content with where you are and you think you've got all the answers and the formula is good because you're paying your bills and you're able to have a nice lifestyle and this is just going to go on forever. It won't just go on forever unless we are making our products and our services more relevant. We see today in big businesses, we see big box stores are shrinking. Staples is now buying Office Depot. Office Depot just merged with Office Max. And this whole world that they're in is shrinking, and they're trying to figure out how to go to the next generation. IBM, the iconic company, has been around for, what, 90 years, reinvented itself maybe 5 different times. Can you believe that IBM cannot grow right now? They're stagnated. So it's not just in little businesses. The big businesses we see become irrelevant because they don't reinvent themselves. They don't listen enough to customers to see how they can solve customer problems. And I'm saying this in the light of all the innovation and creativity that's going on in America. You know, we got driverless cars that are being run down the hills of San Francisco, powered by Google. We see all the innovation in Silicon Valley and all the medical technology and drugs that have coming on to cure diseases, and it's amazing a lot. But in the midst of all that, we are not innovating and creating enough. You're an entrepreneur, small business, startup, been there for 10, been there for 15, been there for 20 years. The only way you're going to stay relevant is to ask more questions, be more curious. Talk to your customers, talk to your employees, talk to your associates, and find out, what is it that I can do better for you? What is it that they need? What problem do they need solved that I might be able to solve? And when you're doing that and you're interactive and you have your hands in the soil and you're talking and you're listening and you're asking questions and you're being curious, you have a much, much better chance to make your business relevant today, tomorrow, next week, and next year. And isn't that the fun of it all? It's just, you know, we see it in sports. In football, it wasn't we changed our offense from year to year because, you know, we had to change it because the defense, they pay the defensive coaches, they pay the defensive players. We had to find ways to beat their defenses. So we had to be creative and innovative, not just on a yearly basis, but every game, every quarter, every minute. We have to adjust what we're doing to be able to be more relevant and more effective against the defense and what they're doing. And that takes thinking and planning and working and totally involvement in the game of football when I was playing that. But in my business today, I do the same thing. I spend my time walking around here talking to our people like Ed Fox and Harry Cubo and all the other young people, what's going on, what's happening, what's working, what's not working, What can we do better? What do our customers really need? What problems do they need solved? You and I are not smart enough, not creative enough to understand that without asking questions. But it's not just you and I. Nobody is. The great business people at all levels, the great coaches at all levels, the great players of basketball, football, they are constantly reinventing themselves, getting better, and they're doing it by talking to people, being curious, asking questions, and learning and getting smarter every day. That's the fun of life. That's the fun of business. Does any of this stuff make sense, Billy the Kid?
Sir, it absolutely does, and not to backtrack on you at all, but there's something else that I kind of wanted to say, and I also want to hear from you on this, and kind of to relate it back to the nail story with Bernie Marcus there. You know, you always tell us to take action now, to take action quick. You know, bad news doesn't get better with age. Do you think that him doing that, getting those nails off the shelves within the first day and getting a new supplier within the first month was beneficial? Can you maybe elaborate on that?
Yeah, you know, we get in the syndrome of having meetings. I talk to people running big companies. All they do is have meetings. I have people say, well, you know, I'm tied up in meetings for the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, but I've got a 15-minute slot a month from now. A month from now? You kidding me? I mean, you've got to get things done now. You've got to address problems right now. And you're right, Ed Fox. I call him Billy the Kid because, you know, I want to get things done today. If we come up with something and we're talking and something happened, we need to make something happen and do something different or reinvent ourselves or start a new project. I want to do it now. I want to address it right now. If I wait till tomorrow or next week or next month, I'll forget about it. Something else will come up. And I think that's the greatness of entrepreneurship. We can work and move with the speed of light. And the big businesses, they cannot do that. The big government cannot do that because they're stuck in meetings after meetings after meetings after meetings. And guess what happens? Nothing ever gets done. They're slow to market. And they're in there talking to each other. They're not even in there talking to customers. The great, great business people that I've known. Bernie Marcus is one of them. Still living, thank God. Sam Walton, who passed on, the founder of Walmart. They had that one ingredient. They were curious. They really wanted to be relevant to their customers. And they wanted to be relevant every day. And they wanted to get smarter every day. And the only way that you can do that is to follow the example of Bernie Marcus. You got to get things done now. Yes, get them done now. Be curious, listen to people. And if you do that, you've got a chance to really knock the cover off the ball. Business is fun because business is about relationships. And relationships, if you're going to build relationships, you got to have a culture of trust, do you not? You got to be able to sit in your room with your 2 employees, 3 employees, 5 employees, or your family members, and be able to have trust that we can talk and ask whatever question, throw out an opinion, throw out an idea without being ridiculed or blasted. Nobody wants to be criticized. Nobody wants to be told you're a dummy. Your idea's crazy. I want all your ideas. I want your ideas that are crazy. Maybe they don't work. Maybe they're not relevant. But we can all determine that ourselves by having open discussion. You've got to have a culture of creativity, a culture of innovation, a culture of service, a culture of trust, that I've got your back and your side and everything else. That you can have my 25-year-olds in here, and I think Billy the Kid, that's the alias of Ed Fox. I think Billy the Kid's maybe 25, 26 years old. And I want him to have the freedom, and he does, to tell me what he thinks. I go sit down in his office. What's happening? What's going? What do you think? What should we do? That's when you have that kind of culture, it becomes a team. And teams win. Individuals don't. I don't care how much talent you've got on the Seattle Seahawks or the New England Patriots, the Super Bowl teams that played together against each other, and New England won. If your coach, if you got great talent and great quarterbacks, which they do, great coaches, which they do, if the culture in that clubhouse is not great, where people, it's built on trust and service and respect. If you don't have that, you don't have a business. You don't have a football team. So make sure, as the leader of your business, to make that culture a trustworthy, respectful culture.
Well, thank you, Fran. That certainly helps out. And talking about teams, if you guys haven't already joined the Fran Tarkenton team, we certainly encourage you to do so by going to frantarkenton.com. And for those of you that are already members, and even for those of you that aren't, if you aren't already aware, Fran is currently holding an exclusive frantarkenton.com team contest for a free $995 scholarship to the Tarkenton Certificate in Entrepreneurship. So we certainly encourage you all to go log into frantarkenton.com and apply during the month of March. Tell us your story. Tell us why you would want the scholarship. Tell us how it can help you. We're going to listen to those stories. We're going to pick the best one, and we're going to provide that person with the scholarship. So thank you, Fran, and thanks everybody else for joining us.